I'm going to turn this into this in 27 minutes or less. Will I finish in time? Or will I have to hit the turbo button? You can create along with me or just relax and watch. I'm Gina Murrow, the 27-minute artist. Budding artists often receive a beginner oil painting set as a gift. But what can you do with all those bright colors? Today, we're going to use the entire rainbow to create Solomon the Lion, King of the Jungle, or in this case, King of the Phoenix Zoo. We're also using a surface called Yupo paper, which is actually a plastic paper, way different than the customary canvas. Here are the supplies you'll need. A piece of Yupo paper. I used 11 by 14, and these colors in oil paints, plus black. Now, if you don't have these exact colors, relax, use what you have. Ready to roar? To the lion's den! Studio! Okay, we're gonna start today with a thin brush. Mine happens to be a number 2 rosemary filbert, but it can be anything thin. My paint's getting a little old, so I'm making sure I have a little linseed oil around to make it not soupy, but to flow easily, because I want to draw with my pen, with my paintbrush. The most important part of this lion is his eyes, so we're going to make sure we leave enough for his mane, which I think is roughly like that. And we just lightly make some straight lines that mark the lion's eye. We'll come back and make that a little more. See, we'll get this angle. We want to make sure we get the angle of that nose. And then there's an eye out here with some skin. Excellent. Okay. And then we come down here, and the right nostril is just inside that eye, right about there. And it comes across, and there's another one. So when you're doing this drawing, you want to do it lightly and just hint at where the shadows are, and that will show you where the piece is. As you make the shadows, the shape of the lion will come out. There's his ear, and he has a bit of a W up above, and his hair goes out like that. Put a little pupil in his eye so that you can kind of see where the eye is going to be. Come back to that in a minute. The real important shadow is, it almost looks like an ear, but it's not his ear, it's just the way the hair goes. But it's just to the left of his right eye, or the eye on our left, and it's shaped like a crescent moon. And then it comes up like that. And coming down from there is his cheekbone. We'll hint at that. His nose is kind of an off-center triangle. And down here is a mountain shape, but make your right a little bit shorter and the left a little bit longer. Now this right below this eye is this dark shadow that's the corner of his mouth, and then his jowl comes down like that. So you don't have to make it exact, because we're going to put colors in, and you can go back and adjust those things. So don't freak out, and don't get into futzing with it at this point, because you really, right now you're just trying to put in roughly where everything shows up. Okay, we got his ear in there, and then his hair, his mane, is a typical lion bad hair day. Actually, it's really beautiful. So we're just gonna hint at where it's gonna go. I'm looking for these shadowy marks where the mane is thicker and breaking through. Okay. And just lightly indicate that the shadow's there. And then this other real important shadow is right below his beard. So we're just gonna draw in that rectangle there. And this paw down here kind of anchors him to where he is. And I need to make sure I get the paw prints lined up. So I see that thumb, I guess you'd call it, more or less underneath this eye. So I give it a little shape, and this paw is just more or less suggested. It's not the important part of the picture, so I don't want to draw too much attention to it, but it needs to be there to anchor him. I feel like it got a little bit thin. We don't want it to be thin. And then he has one paw out here resting. This is going to be all dark. So now, see it popping out? Yeah, isn't that fun? Okay, let's do the mane coming out a little bit more. And right down here, the mane gets very smooth, so I'll do some long strokes to remind me that's what I'm going to do there. His hip bone starts right about here. It doesn't come out very much, but it's there. And then we're going to indicate where we want the shadow. Just a little lion-shaped shadow. Okay. Let's anchor him. Let's give him a horizon line. This kind of looks like an EKG a little bit. It's just supposed to show me where the grass is. Doesn't have to be exact. A little bit of grass down there. Okay, using one of these beginner sets, you end up having a black, a white, and a rainbow of colors. And you don't always know what to do with that rainbow of colors because our lion at first glance is yellow. And just a yellow line will look kind of flat. So we're going to play with it a bit. Taking some paper towel, just wipe my brush off. And I usually wear gloves, and I didn't remember to put them on. As much as I paint, I do tend to use gloves because just to keep the excess of fine metals out of my skin. But occasionally painting without gloves is fine. Actually, I just found my gloves. I'll go ahead and put them on because I am one of the world's messiest painters. I get to flinging paint, sometimes literally, and this is just safer. You can use gardening gloves. These happen to be special painting gloves, but it's not that special. They breathe well and they keep the paint on the outside and they're washable. I have found the same effect with gardening gloves from Home Depot. Okay, there's my lion. Let's start with our darks. Let's get our shadows in. I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch brush. This is a 6-inch filbert, but anything kind of flat and big is great. Dipping in my linseed oil, because like I said, mine is just a little bit old. Oil paints do get thick. I'm going to use a touch of purple right on the edge of this dark. Just a bit. Now, I'm taking this paper towel, and this paper towel is Viva paper towel, and it has very little pattern. We're going to use that for wiping away on the lion. You can also use blue paper towels, shop towels they call them, that you can get at a hardware store. That works too really well. I'm going to skip over here to this Pthalo Blue because it's nice and dark. A little more of a shadow effect, I think. Let's get this part of his eye. Now when you start getting black mixed in, because from our drawing paint, wipe it off and get some fresh paint. The secret to this technique is freshness, and to keep it fresh you've got to wipe off your paint off your brush pretty often. Okay. I'm just looking for some of the darkness. That can be read as blue. I think the blue is actually, the Pthalo Blue is a little darker than the purple, in my opinion. It reads darker. Get that haunch in there. Okay, wiping off your brush. I'm going to add a touch of this turquoise just beyond that. kind of under the eye. And then I'm going to come over here and get a touch of the sap green. And you can mix a sap green. You could use any kind of green and add yellow, but I just happen to have it. And it's also the color often in those beginner kits. And I thought, yeah, we'll play easy. I'm putting green paint along the other edge, and you'll see why here in just a second. Okay. Then I'm going to take my plain white Viva towel, wrap it around my finger, and I'm going to finger paint. Make a beautiful blended color, switching often to a clean side of the paper towel. Now if I rub hard, it rubs almost down to the white, and if I rub softer, it just blends it. I got some black in there and I don't really want that. So get a fresh clean spot. It's a little more where I don't want. So I'm going to rub it out now while it's fresh. And yeah, it stains the paper and it leaves a little mark, but we can blend that in. It won't be a problem. I'm going to touch my big brush again. Get a little bit of green, just a little. And put a little down here for his beard and that part of his face. Get a clean side to the paper towel. Now again, notice I did one swipe and I backed off. You just really don't want to see, I messed it up a little bit there, sticking in my paper towel, and it's hard not to do that. It's hard to remember to get a fresh side, but it does help. Now his beard's disappearing a bit, so fresh side. There we go. You add, subtract, add, subtract. Go ahead and do that paw while I have a little bit of blue on there. Let's see. I don't have enough blue. So I take my big brush, sticking with the biggest brush you can possibly do most of the time. And let's just add a touch of purple there. At least right up in here. Feels like that's drying out. So more linseed oil. Give it a little mix. Now I'm back to purple. Okay, I've got 15 minutes. I'm getting a little bit futzy in the dark section. I need to let it go. So clean part of the tissue. Circular motion to get the paw prints in there. It's a little bumpy, so I'm going to just rub it over again. And get those in. Okay, now my darks down here have disappeared a bit, so let's go purple. Purple looks like it's dark, but the light is enough to turn the blue with a touch of red, which of course makes purple. There we go. I like that better. My nose disappeared a bit. Okay. Again, if I use my brush, you're going to see the brush marks, but if I wrap the paper towel around my finger and do a little bit of soft touch on this Yupo paper, which is a synthetic plastic. It's actually often used for watercolor, but I find it does a lot of fun things with this oil paints. Just fun stuff. Take my brush that I made, the thin one, the one I originally drew with, and we can shape up this nose just a little bit so we don't lose it. It's okay to leave a little bit of white. You want to make sure the white is working for you though. There we go. Okay. Now let's do his mane before we do his eye. Take your big brush again, make sure it's well wiped off. Get yourself a fresh paper towel. We're going to start in the lights now, and we're going to use the red as our darkest light, then go to orange, then yellow. So I'm going to touch it to the linseed oil, make sure my red is nice and, you know, liquidy but not too soupy. And in these dark parts of his mane where he has shadows, up maybe behind the ear, but the light is starting to hit this area, I'm just going to put in some red. And it's okay if it crosses the paint, but if I do, I want to wipe it off so that I don't get too much black into it. See, my brush has got a little stuff in it, so I'll mix it in. Red's powerful, and it can hide most of what's happening. Okay, 12 minutes. Let's see, he's got a little bit of the mane coming out there. We'll use the red because that's a nice mark. Now red's such a strong color. I'm going to dip it in the Gamsol and really get a lot of that off my brush. Gamsol is an odorless turpentine. It's not completely odorless. It smells a little bit, but it's not near as strong as turpentine. Your whole house won't smell like Gamsol. Now we're going to move the next color over. And I'll put a little more orange out for myself. It's really hard to know how much paint to put out. We want to be stingy with it because it's expensive and we want it to last, but you need to get enough out that you can work with it. Got some orange on there, and it's going to go next to the red, but not too close. It's the next color over. It has more sunlight on it than the red does. That's why it looks lighter, but it's still darker than the yellow. This is smooth. So I need to make sure I do some smooth marks that look like hair. So right up here, it's kind of short, right? Because that's the top of his mane. But as we come around, the shapes get longer. Okay? Got dark in it, so I'm just wiping, putting on fresh orange. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. There's a little bit of dark there. And just a fraction there. Okay, now switch to yellow. This is where the sun is really hitting it. And my brush is getting a little dirty. So I don't use Gamsol in between all that often, but when I'm doing it like today where I just want to basically use one brush and keep going, because sometimes I don't want to go through all the brushes, or I'm away on a trip and I only have a few, you just keep wiping often. Okay? Definitely need to get some yellow on the outside at the top, because that is where most of our sun is hitting. There's a tiny bit over here, but not much. Lots there. I'm running out of yellow, but I have more in my tube. I'm putting out a size, roughly the size of a nickel or a quarter, because I know I've got a lot of line to do. I want to encourage myself to be fruitful with the paint. Now that stuck some orange on there, so I'm going to put a little yellow right on top. There we go. That matches the sunshine more. Touches of yellow up there. Okay. Now let's define that ear a little more. I'm going to go back to the purple. Now purple and yellow are across on the color wheel, so when they mix together they turn gray. And I got some gray. So taking a razor blade, I'm going to clean that off. Get some, this is Manganese Violet. It's just a color I really like. It happens to be Daniel Smith brand. It's a very warm reddish violet. Comes in handy for this kind of painting, and it's similar to what you find in beginner sets. It's usually this color purple rather than a blue purple. Wipe. Okay. Yeah. Great. It's tempting to keep trying to fix little things that have gone wrong, but what you really want to do is stop. Don't do it. Give it some space. Let it have a little, your eye will fill in the parts that don't quite fit. Okay. I'm making a mess as usual, but fortunately I have on my gloves. Now I'm going to take orange and mix it with a little bit of transparent oxide orange, which you probably don't necessarily have on your palette. You could mix in a touch of blue with the orange, or even a little bit of the purple, and brown it down, which is what I'm trying to do here. I still want it to look orange. I just want it to have a little less vibrancy because I'm putting the eye, we'll put a little purple in, I'll show you. There we go. I'm putting in the shadow part of the eye and just make a little half moon shape. Okay, wipe it off. Resist the temptation to go over here and do this one before wiping. One mark. Okay. Now take a bit, wipe your brush and take a bit of yellow. This brush is a number 4. It's in between the two sizes I've been using. You could have just used the black one that you used for drawing. And we're just putting a touch of yellow to show some lighter color. Now put that brush down. Do get out your thin one that you did the drawing with, or the tip of the one you're using. We're going to put a pupil in and then clean it off, get some fresh black. We're going to make the black lines around the eye and carve in the shape of the eye. Now, an animal's eye, it's better if you don't do it round. You just, almost like you're drawing an octagon, though I don't know that it necessarily has 8 sides. It's probably more like a hexagon. But you're going to put in those, make it almost like a multi-sided round thing rather than making a circle, and it will look more real. Not sure why, but it does. Ooh, I like that. We will stop there. Now, 5 minutes. Okay, we gotta book along. Let's fix his mouth here just a little. There we go. I like that. Now this needs to be a wee bit darker. So let's go back to our big brush and the dark blue. Just darken it a bit, but just a bit. I need to bring out some definition there between the light and the dark is all I'm doing. Yeah, now see how much more his face shows up? Now this part right here looks a little funny to me. It's too much white. I'm going to take a touch of the red just to define that a little more. Don't overwork it. Okay, shadow. Let's start with the dark blue. Needs a little linseed oil, it's a bit thick. There we go. Sometimes you want thicker. If you're painting on canvas and you're trying to get it to stick to the weave on the canvas, thicker is great. But for this particular style of painting, the more oily version is better. Avoiding that orange that I got in my purple. Add some purple. Let's go with a bit of turquoise. I'm going to do something with this in a minute, you'll see. Touch of green. And I have a messy, okay, there's some clean stuff. This is my lion-shaped shadow. What shadow? He's got a little bit of hair out there. I'm just gonna make that shadow a little better right there. Now I don't want the end of my shadow too scrubby because shadows do tend to have follow the edges that they're seeing. So when I'm seeing it do that, I'm just gonna kind of change colors. Change parts of my dirty towel. And give that a little scrub out. Soften it just a bit because it is a shadow edge, not an actual visual thing. Clean my brush off. Put a little green on it. Let's get this horizon line with its grassiness there. Now Solomon was chilling, waiting for supper. He was a very happy lion. It was cute. He was obviously content. He had a female in the cage with him, though she was over by the food gate, wanting dinner faster than Solomon was wanting it. But he was quite content to just stay in the sunshine and just wait. He knew he'd get there. He's an old guy. I don't remember exactly how old he is, but I remember checking, and he's up there. I'm just going to lightly brush that. There we go. Now see, this has gotten kind of messy. I bumped it with something. So I'm just going to take some green on my brush. I have 58 seconds, and I'm just going to put in some grass. So it'll look like I intended for that to be modeled with paint. Whew, 45 seconds to go and I am done. I present to you Solomon. Would you like to see a preview of our next episode? Keep watching. It's coming in just 40 seconds. But first, here are a few things you can do to help me keep the videos coming. Hit the subscribe button below and leave a comment while you're there. Share this video on your social media or share it with a friend. You can go to my website where you'll find more painting tips. And you can buy the paintings I've created in these episodes. You can also see my fine art originals that took me way more than 27 minutes to create. Book me as a guest artist for your next gathering or convention. I do live painting demos and paint-alongs for groups of every size, either in person or via Zoom. Next time on 27-Minute Artist, I'll show you a 3-step process to capture a swan in flight. See you next time.